What's up, Brass Facts here. About a year ago, I think, I don't know, I can't keep track of time to save my life. I did a review on two laser speed lasers. Unfortunately, both of them did not so good in the review, to the point of where I would not recommend those products. However, LaserSpeed is one of the very few companies that does active iteration, not just internally, but listening to consumers, on such a short time scale that my ADD can actually comprehend that something is happening. So on that note, they have released now this M6TR, and by all accounts, it's looking to shape up to solve a lot of problems of those aforementioned lasers. So I'm a sucker for a redemption arc. Round 2, baby. This is my review of the LaserSpeed M6TR.
LaserSpeed sent me this free of cost. One of the few companies that actually sends me something this year, despite some of you in the comments, yeah, I see you, claiming I get literally everything for free. Last I counted, I think I got 6 things for free this year, most of which were either Holosun or Primary Arms. So yeah, let me have this, please? Maybe? No, okay, fuck brass facts. Real quick, since I haven't done a laser review in a while, some people might be confused on why exactly we give a shit about an overseas Chinese laser. The FDA, yes, the Food and Drug Administration, regulates the sales of lasers past a certain intensity aggressively. And while we don't really care about high-power lasers, we do want high-power illuminators, which is unfortunately the exact same thing, but with a diffuser, so it is too regulated. As a result, most LAMs thus end up being extremely anemic. However, V-cell tech has emerged as a solution that does seem to allow higher performance without getting pee-pee slapped by the FDA for reasons I don't quite understand. Unfortunately, every single new V-cell is a no-corners cut design with fuck you pricing models to match. Well, except the Holosun Iris, but I'll talk about that in a second, I promise. Thus, a lot of people have resorted to gray market PEC 15s, essentially full power unrestricted lasers pulled out of the trash can of a military or police department and then resold on the gray market. These also somehow cost fuck you money, but now the fuck you is in lowercase. They're all serialized, so if you break yours, which is not entirely unlikely considering how old many of these are, and then send them back to Steiner or L3, they will thank you for your service of returning stolen government property and you'll never see it again. So by necessity, civilians without trust fund levels of disposable income have turned to overseas companies to get access to full power IR modules. Much like the stereotype of all Chinese bootleg products, these too have been fraught with issues, most of which have to do with barely holding zero and not being able to stand up to basic long-term wear. Thus, LaserSpeed is somewhat unique here, sporting a much higher price tag than you would expect at about $1,000 for their units. The idea here being that it is the bare minimum to create a high quality laser, beating out the cheaper airsoft grade lasers on durability, beating out the standard American FDA restricted units on power level, offering 45 milliwatt illuminator and a 25 milliwatt laser, while also beating out the very expensive American units on price by almost a factor of 3. SHOT Show is just around the corner, and every year at SHOT Show I like to make a bunch of patches to give out to, well, you guys. So, well, here we go. Here's another patch. This patch actually already existed for a very long time, kind of as a limited edition test run thing, and it was originally created as a joke, but I'll be honest, Derp Cartoon Nova, in the form of the logo, is actually probably my favorite iteration of patches yet. So, if you can't make it to SHOT Show and would like to buy one instead, well, you can go ahead and do so in the link down below, and you're also happy to support the channel. If you've already spent all your money on blackjack, hookers, and gambling at Vegas, find me at SHOT Show. I'll give you one for free. So, back to the review. As mentioned, their first attempt, while promising, was not worth the price of admission. So let's look at pride number 2. The M6TR looks to have the best features of the M3 and the FL5 while ditching much of the problems presented on both. We retain the nice quality switches from the M3. The illumination divergence knob actually works significantly better now. The illumination pattern looks significantly better on top of that than the petri dish aids that you get on most gray market PEC 15s. And unlike those, the IR and Viz are housed in the same, well, housing, meaning use 0, 1, use 0, all 3. Very convenient, and it doesn't mean you need to chase the illuminated 0 after your actual 0 to appease your OCD. It also has an armed light indicator, which happens to be a step up over legacy models once again, indicating green for Viz laser and red for IR laser instead of just on for on and off for off. Just a nice little quality of life thing. LaserSpeed has also opted to ditch the on-paper, cooler quick detach mount from the FL5 for a much cheaper but far more robust crossbolt style mount. which also results in this thing just being one of the lowest on-rail modules, only being beat out for the DIRV and, by a technicality, the MUL in terms of how much of a field of view it might take up when mounted at the 12 o'clock. It also is very lightweight at 7.4 ounces. The end result being, despite the main driving force for this thing being the desire to get full power performance for as cheap as possible, the form factor, feel, and functionality of this thing actually ends up being superior in many ways to legacy units.
Oh, pocket mag. Pocket mag.
Aren't you wearing a plate carrier?
Yeah, but it's warm.
So, how'd this thing hold up? Okay with some key exceptions. The big one being the battery cap. I've now seen this with 3 separate units. Under recoil, the battery cap slowly walks off. And unlike, say, your legacy units, that it gets to a point where it's ever so slightly, maybe 1 degree, 2 degrees off of maximum tightness, and it will shut off under recoil. That is, you'll be holding the button, you'll shoot the gun, and the laser will turn off. So you need the release and then repress to turn it back on, and then rinse, repeat. Obviously not usable in that state.
Oh no. Oh no, it's doing the thing again. Oh, it's doing the thing again. Shit. No!
Now you can fix this by just cranking on it, and you'll be good for an entire range session. But it does back off in fairly quick order, so much so that the SOP with this thing is basically before every range session you want to crank on it, and then, for good measure, crank on it after every range trip. Kind of not a big deal, you can mitigate it pretty easily, but trust me, you're gonna forget, and then you're gonna do a course of fire, and you're gonna look like an idiot. The next issue is the crane plug. A for effort, however, F for execution. This crane plug is incredibly tight. Even with the included switch, it's kind of tough to get stuff in, and when you use something like, say, a mod button or some of other laser tape switches, generally speaking, it's not consistent on how this works. I've asked around. The plug won't go in all the way and thus will not work. In fact, the only 2 switches I personally have working on this thing are the Surefire dual pad switches, the SR07 switch, and the included OEM tape switch. Now, that wouldn't be terrible, especially since it comes with this, tape switch, except for the fact that this thing is kinda huchungus because it's a 2-button switch. Crane is binary in its functionality, so now we have this 2-button switch where both of the buttons do exactly the same thing. So yeah, hard to say whose fault that is. Is mod button out of spec, or is this out of spec? I'm gonna guess it's probably this, but regardless, in practice, at least with this first generation, you're gonna be using this thing over the top instead of relying on a switch. So.
But who cares about all that? Does the thing actually hold 0? This specific unit has 2,200 rounds on the nose, in the mountains, snow, a good week-long drenching in Oregon, sitting in the back of the van in said Oregon wet for 3 days straight, and about 200 rounds of 6.8 as a treat to remind it what American unrestricted DoD budget looks like with $3 a round for factory rejects. Did the thing hold 0? Yes. No. Sort of. Give me a second. Mechanically, this thing held up fine. No self-destruction in 500 to 1,000 rounds like we had with the original 2 models. No helicoptering of the mode selector, no parts coming loose, no new issues as far as I can tell developed throughout the, duration of this review. I did notice, however, and this should have been in a previous section, but I suck at formatting, this is very susceptible to heavy pressing on the rear unit, causing it to flex ever so slightly, causing about 5 to 10 MOA of temporary flex. Which in theory is an issue, especially if you tend to muscle the shit out of everything when you're shooting and induce a potential miss, maybe, but I'm probably just overstating it. I didn't notice myself randomly sailing shots. What is an issue, however, is that we did notice about a 5, why do I keep saying we? It's just me. I noticed a 5-ish MOA shift for about the first 1,200 rounds, upon which I re-zeroed and then maybe got a 1 to 2 MOA shift by the 2,000 round mark. I've been over this before, but really, I think this is about standard for laser aiming modules, especially since we keep mounting these on friction fit handguards, and yes, wedge lock and Geisley rails are also friction fit. I've checked the patterns, and at least for most Western lasers, they use this sort of zigzag leaf spring looking thing instead of screws that we tend to notice in scopes. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just completely made that the fuck up. So, regardless, all laser aiming modules, at least the ones I have, seem to be somewhat susceptible to either temporary 0 loss, which resets with 0, or permanent 0 loss when they are hit very heavily. So I have no idea if the M6TR is designed similarly to Western lasers on the inside. Regardless, we did notice, 5+-ish MOA loss after about 1,200 rounds. On the higher end of zero shifting, but not that much higher. I don't know. I'll let you be the judge on this one. I think it'll depend on the person.
Ages as a firearm thing.
It's okay to say fuck every now and then. You got to, it just relieves that tension in your brain.
Yeah.
Tension in your balls.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan pointed out the comment. It was like,
I think my fuck word tipped it off a little bit more than yours.
Oh yeah, dude, you were swearing a lot. You're proud of that though.
I don't really care. Fuck people. Can fucking suck my dick.
That's a little gay, dude.
Probably.
But it's not gay if it's an insult.
I'm wearing boot bands, so it's okay.
Hey man, I monetize that, and if you make money off of it, it's not gay. Yeah. All right, who's got the timer?
Okay, we need to do a iris detour before we conclude this video. At the specific second, when I'm writing the script on December 18th, the Holosun Iris is not purchasable outside of pre-orders, nor has anyone had access for a full-blown review. However, I suspect its release is mostly imminent, and if we take its design spec, its footage, and the functionality, as well as the reputation of Holosun, as long as the thing holds zero and doesn't have a horrific Achilles heel, it's going to be an industry-defining laser, taking a lot of wind out of the sail of the reason for the M6TR existing in the first place. Here's the thing. You probably won't be able to get one for the next 6 months, because as far as I know, it's very back-ordered, and even if it turns out to be as good as we suspect, which, to be sure, we're not going to really know for upwards of 6 months due to waiting on long-term reviews, and while the M6TR is probably going to be slightly worse, it's going to be a solid second-place option. Maybe. Who knows? So, in conclusion, the M6TR. Is it perfect? Is it amazing? No, but at that price tag, I can certainly tolerate its quirks, and it brings a lot to the table at its price tag. And there's actually some unique upsides, like great form factor, weight, and size. For most people, this is going to be leagues better than a Somo gear, especially if something like a Raid XE or a Mol are out of reach, while being much safer to buy than a gray market PEC 15, while offering the performance we want over the Civ LS321, while being significantly smaller than the available but kind of expensive Steiner D2, and on top of that, you can actually buy one right now, unlike the Iris. Cool. That's where I think it sits on the market right now. Let me know what you think, and yeah, we'll see you fellas later. Maybe I'll get my hands on a functioning Iris at SHOT Show. We'll see. Okay, later fellas.
This dog. When she was younger, like even 2 years ago, 1 year ago, she would wake up instantly when she heard my voice. Now she just sleeps like a rock. Yeah, she would be awake the moment I made a single noise, but now she's cracked out. Oh, hello. Hello. Good morning. By morning, I mean 11:30 at night. Hello. Yeah. Hello. Camera, would you focus? I'm trying to get dog footage. Excuse me? Excuse me? I know this looks avant-garde-y, but... Oh, there we go. Hello. Nova in her natural habitat for once, for the clip at the end of the video. On this poor stained couch that she licks her paw on way too much. Yeah, okay. She just wants to be held.